Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Social Contract, a Commander podcast. I'm Mike Almond, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Alex Lepp. Alex, what's up, man?
Not too much, Mike. And this week, I thought we could take a trip back in time to the good old year 2000. Mike, what are some good things that happened in the year 2000?
It wasn't the year 2020 or 2021.
That is a good point.
Specifically.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Let's see. I was younger. I was more full of life, but I had like less responsibilities, but not as much Magic knowledge as I do now. So it's some pros, some cons.
Were you playing Magic back then, Mike?
I think so.
Really?
I'd have to actually go into it. I think that's about when I stopped playing, to be honest with you. But it was close.
Now, is it possible that you stopped playing because you had a bad standard experience?
Not for me, but when you brought up the specific set that we're going to talk about, it made sense because, man, time heals all wounds, especially those of the standard kind, because now Commander exists, and, well, Prophecy needed some help back in the day, but now we're going to try and give it some second life here.
Yeah, absolutely. Prophecy is kind of infamously bad, right? It had these cycles that just didn't make any sense. Cycles that cared about other players paying mana. Cycles that allowed anyone to pay mana. Mike, these things didn't make any sense back in the year 2000.
Why not, Alex?
Well, because Commander was just a twinkle in Sheldon's eye. So
not a ton of multiplayer going on.
I'm sure that it was happening somewhere, but it was nowhere near as
it wasn't a format.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a format. I got the idea for this, having listened to TCG Players Pretty Decent. The host's name, I don't know off the top of my head, but it's a great show. We all love it.
Shout out.
He had an episode about the worst standard set ever, which of course was Prophecy, and how he was drafting as a young boy and pulled some of the worst cards ever. However, Mike, we just looked at the Prophecy set list, and I knew that we were going to see some stuff, but I did not expect to see.
We saw a lot of stuff.
The quality, the silliness of the cards that we're about to talk about, Mike. I'm excited.
Peek behind the curtain for everybody. Alex and I are currently looking at a Scryfall compilation of 32 cards, which is after we removed like another 5 cards from the original list that we were talking about, which means it's only about a fourth to a third
narrow down
higher
the
set.
We were clicking every single card in the set.
There's a lot of stuff in here, and there's like you said, there's a lot of stuff where it's like, oh, okay, no, that's where, okay, so this was in that set, that makes sense. There's a couple things where it's, oh, that's nuts, and a couple of things where you and I both said, oh, this goes into a couple of our decks now. And I wasn't familiar with them. Let's start with a couple ones that I'm sure people are familiar with. Alex, do you pay the 1?
I personally never pay the 1. Now, I know that's a bit of a hot take, Mike, but for me, not paying the 1, that's a gift to me because I'm not paying the 1. And that's my gift to you because you get to draw the card. What other gift gives twice? Ristic Study.
Well, most of the decks that we make, but yes, totally fine. Ristic Study in Prophecy, pretty famous card. I'm going to let you read it.
Okay. Ristic Study, 2 and a blue, 3 mana for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may draw a card unless that player pays 1. Mike, this is, I mean, what do you even need to say? This isn't just a political card. This is one of the top draw spells in the entire game of Commander. Yep. I don't think it's even that much of a contest.
Oh, and it's been around for a long time. It hasn't been printed a ton of times.
Yeah.
Like everything, it seems like it's promos, and then it's in the mystery boosters, and it's in Jumpstart. So now the card is only $34.
$33, $34. That is expensive.
Yes,
but this card,
it's
phenomenal value.
It's worth.
I'm sure that everybody's milled over in their head whether they like paying the one or they don't like paying the one. Most people will say always pay it. I say never pay it unless it's the arch enemy. But you can discuss that at home, right? That's an exercise for our listeners. Let's move on.
Yeah, to the goodest 1/1. Goodest one that isn't a veteran explorer, maybe.
Okay.
Spore Frog.
Spore
Frog is in this green for a 1/1 that says sacrifice Spore Frog, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. The recursion delights the all of the Marin players that put up their hands in victory in unison. It's just a good card, and here it is. We found it.
This is so. It was printed in Prophecy, and then never again until Modern Horizons.
Yeah. So it's and yet is like one of the more. It's one of the more useful cards.
I would say it's one of the top fogs in the game.
Yeah,
one of the strongest.
Because it's a creature, so it's easier to get back. Right. It's a sack outlet.
It's a rattlesnake.
And it's a rattlesnake. It's very nice.
We're talking about a lot of rattlesnakes today, Mike.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. What else do we got as far as like some of the more like staples? The things like, everybody's got.
Yeah.
Because I'm not gonna lie, there's not a ton on here.
Well, everyone knows this one, Mike, because this one's been in some precons. This is a classic. Avatar of Woe. 6 black,
sure.
That's 8 mana for an avatar creature. 6/5. If there are 10 or more creature cards total in all graveyards, this spell costs 6 less to cast, which would make it cost black. It has fear, which means it can't be blocked except by artifact or black creatures, and it has the activated ability tap, destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. Mike, this is a devil of a rattlesnake.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a problem.
This doesn't cost 8, by the way. You pay 2 for this.
Yeah. It's very unlikely that you're ever going to be at that point.
Yeah.
This was like, now I know that I was playing Magic at this time, because this was like one of the main beaters.
Oh yeah, Avatar of Woe. Yeah, absolutely. That was printed in. Cool. It was reprinted in Commander, the original Commander set, and that's where I first saw it.
There you go. A journey with this card. I'm sorry, I'm going back.
We also have one more staple, not so much in Commander, but maybe in some other formats. We have Foil, which is 2 blue for an instant. You may discard an island card and another card rather than pay the spell's mana cost, and has counter target spell. This is just the poor man's Force of Will. Force of Will is like $100-something. This is 40 cents.
It's specifically asking you, instead of a blue card, you have to have a specific card, an island.
Yes.
Presuming that you would have lots.
Yes.
And then another card. So sometimes easier, sometimes not. But either way, it's more times than not free counterspell. That's pretty good in our format.
Yeah. Yeah, we have most of the staples there. Maybe 1 or 2 more, but we have some deep
those are the
cuts
mainstays.
We have some really interesting cards that have been lost to time.
Yeah. I'm overwhelmed. Not by the number of cards, because I'm actually cool with that.
Okay.
Because I'm excited to talk about all of these. But more so, where do we freaking start?
That's an excellent question. Mike, let's start with this incredibly unique Commander cycle.
Okay.
Or at that time, it would have been a legendary creature cycle because they didn't have commanders back then. But now we do. And let's talk about some of the cards in this cycle. Let's start with my favorite, Jerail, Empress of Beasts, which is 3.
She's come up before.
She has come up before. And I love her. Let's talk about her one more time. 3 green, that's 5 mana for a 3/3 legendary creature, human spell shaper. She has an activated ability, pay 2 in green, that's 3 mana, tap and discard 2 cards. Wow, that's a big cost. What do you get? all lands target player controls become 3/3 creatures until end of turn. They're still lands. Mike, we've talked about Jor-El before. This is the ultimate don't board wipe me rattlesnake. If you board wipe me, if you spot remove Jor-El, you do anything that threatens my board state, Jor-El is going to turn all of your creatures into lands. And not just that, but when it's time to Alpha Strike, you now have a bunch of extra creatures. It's all of your lands. Mike, I love Jor-El.
It's a great rattlesnake. It's a great win con, depending on what you're trying to play.
Yes.
Jor-El wears a lot of hats, and on those hats are lots of beasts,
Various
evidently.
animals, yes.
But it's a good card. It always will be. It'll be underplayed until it's not, frankly.
It's in
but
my
I like the
Venifer
card.
deck.
Go. It's in my Damia Lands deck, and for good reason.
Mike, there's another card in this cycle that you said that you have a history with.
Yeah, so there's a couple, actually. And again, I did not realize it. I want to move on to another commander here. Magetta the Lion. This is a 3 white, so a 5 mana, 3/3 Spell Shaper Legend. We're actually going to talk about a bunch of different Spell Shapers here. That has the ability to white, tap, discard 2 cards from your hand. You're going to see a theme here. With that, again, another super heavy cost.
Yeah, big cost.
Destroy all creatures except for Magetta the Lion.
Wow.
Those creatures can't be regenerated. This is Wrath of God on a creature for discarding 2 cards, and it sticks around.
Oh my gosh, Mike. That is such a powerful rattlesnake. You're right. 4 mana, tap and discard 2. That's a lot, but it's a lot for destroy the board and save the commander. That is a heck of an ability.
If you were playing a deck and it was just 4 mana for an instant that also had destroy all creatures, discard 2 cards.
Right.
If that was the cost, that would be borderline playable by itself at instant speed.
Yeah, if it was
This is
instant speed,
recurable.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
This is recurable.
Yeah. It's repeatable.
Because it's just sticking around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Repeatable, not recurable. Well, I mean, if it's your commander,
you can
it's
recur your
recurable.
commander, but this is a repeatable ability.
Yeah.
And
we've
talked about this
it's
before.
A nuts
What's
card.
the best part about a rattlesnake? You don't even have to activate it to threaten to blow it up. That's the rattle.
If you make somebody have to remove this for them to do the rest of their turn, you're in a pretty good start.
I mean, you can blow up the board in response.
Yep. There is always that.
There is another one, isn't there? Another card in the cycle that you get a history with.
Well, which one are we talking about specifically? Because I'm looking at all these Spell Shapers.
I'm talking about Greel, the Mindbreaker.
Yeah. Okay. So this was I want to put it back out there. This is when I was a young pup and I didn't understand
this is Mike's true nature.
About good magic and being a good player, and I got Greeled before, and I thought it was a cool card, and I had it, and I was like, oh, well, that worked, so I'll do it too. Now I've learned. But Greel, Mindraker, 3 black for a 3/3 Spell Shaper Legend that has the ability X black tap, discard 2 cards from your hand. Target player discards X cards at random from their hand.
Yeah.
That's a 5 mana, 6 mana. Hey, get rid of your hand.
Yeah, they're screwed
At instant speed.
Yeah.
That can be a problem.
Yeah, that kind of effect will set you back 3 turns minimum.
Well, not only that, but now think about other things like Turgrid. Think about things that care about people discarding cards and extra effects that happen on top of that. And at the time, this was Waste Not. Yeah. Holy cow, Waste Not's an absolute beater.
Yep.
Because if you get somebody at somebody's end step, you get them to discard enough stuff for you to get enough value out of it. Untap, get somebody else to do it. Hopefully, you make them discard some lands. If you make them discard some lands, then you don't mind that you paid a bunch of mana to make them discard everything.
The interesting thing about this one, Mike, is unlike Vegeta, but like Jarrell, you could use an Illusionist Bracer's style effect, or the Bracers themselves, to copy this ability. You won't have to pay X in black again. You won't have to discard 2 cards again, but you will choose a second player to discard X cards at random.
Gross. Gross. You know what? Let's just move on to the next one, which is somehow better, even though it's terrifying. Last spell shaper I think we got here, Alexi, Zephyr Mage, 3 generic, blue, so a 5 mana commander for a 3/3 that has X blue, tap, discard 2 cards from your hand, return X target creatures to their owner's hands. At link decks, bounce decks, or just control, put things back, that's a pretty good effect. Yeah,
this is, I think this is one where you would really want to threaten more than use, because once you use it, that's a really steep cost. But if you can threaten that you're going to use it, that's a lot better value, because now you're not spending anything and people still think you'll do it.
Yeah, and it again, like, it's one of those, it's definitely my least favorite of the ones that we've discussed.
Right.
Of the 4 spell shapers that we discussed. But it's still neat. You know, it's still an effect that, there are more efficient ways to do it. But I like the, hey, pay X +1 and discard 2 cards. Balance as many things as you'd like. I'm a fan. But those are the spell shapers that we're looking at from this set, and a cool effect. And honestly, I'd be totally fine with bringing them back in some way, shape, or form. What do we want to go to here? Do we want to talk about doing some cool things? And by cool things, I mean terrible things with lands?
We could. I have a pair of cards here that appear to be from the same cycle that I'm very excited to talk about. The first one is one that I did know about already, and that's Dual Nature. Dual Nature is 4 green. That's 6 mana for an enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield, its controller creates a token that's a copy of that creature.
Okay.
And it also has, whenever a non-token creature leaves the battlefield, exile all tokens with the same name as that creature, so that if the original leaves, you will also lose the copy. And likewise, when Dual Nature leaves the battlefield, exile all tokens created with Dual Nature. So this is something that you can control. If it gets out of hand, you can say, okay, game's over. We're just going to blow this up or sacrifice this, and it's over. But, Mike, this is powerful.
Oh, yeah. No, this is everybody gets to play a token of the thing that they're playing.
Yeah.
Like, it's great. Okay. Everything is a doubling season. Or not exactly, but you know what I mean? Like, it's I'm going to make 2 of these.
Everyone gets a copy of every creature that they play.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, here's the other cool thing about this. It's non-token creatures. So, okay, play your commander. Great, your commander comes out. You make a copy of your commander. You have to sacrifice a creature. So if you're playing a deck that cares about things going to the graveyard, great, because that's going to happen. If you are just playing something where whenever creatures enter the battlefield, anything along those lines, that's pretty cool. This is one of those cards that sounds like, I'm just going to give everybody a lot of value because everybody's going to play some creatures. That, you got a commander, that's going to happen probably. But the things that you can do to take advantage of it,
right?
Like, you can go a bunch of different ways with this card. It doesn't just necessarily have to be make stuff.
Run this in your big green Stompy deck. Now you're making 2 times the Stompies. Like we talked about this, the number one way to break parity is by designing the deck to break parity, and it'll just kind of happen.
Oh, it's an awesome card.
Just
What was the second one?
So the second one is one that I didn't know about. You knew about this one, but I saw this and my eyes went wide. I'm like, oh my god, Infernal Genesis. 4 black, 6 mana for an enchantment. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player mills a card. Then they create X 1/1 black minion creature tokens, where X is the milled card's mana value. Mike, I'm really happy this says X 1/1s and not 1XX. Because now everybody gets bodies. I get bodies.
It is very good for generating. I mean, this is the same thing we were talking about with Dual Nature, where it's like, oh, hey, if you care about things going into entering the battlefield, more triggers, more triggers, more triggers.
More things to sacrifice.
More things to sacrifice. More bodies for everybody. Hey, here's a bunch of 1/1s. Are you playing a high mana value deck? Are you playing, a control-y tempo deck? Like, there are a bunch of different ways for this to have a lot of effect. I've got this in one deck, and I've always wanted to take it out and put it into somewhere else, but it just always does a good amount of fun. This is in my Vivictus deck.
Yeah, that's interesting because this seems to serve if your deck is like a chunkier deck, higher on the mana curve, you're running a lot of high mana effects, and this benefits everyone, but the players playing the fastest, leanest decks with the fast mana and the low to the ground permanence, it benefits them the least, and I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, they can get a little bit wider.
But nowhere near as much as you.
But no, exactly. You're, if anything, you're going to be able to keep up better than they were before.
Right.
And at the same time, at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player puts the top card of their library into their graveyard. Hey, you know what? That stops a lot of end-step tutors. And I'm fine with that, too. Because, hey, anything to... You know what? No, we're not going to combo off. We're going to... You know what that's going to turn into? However many 1/1s it was worth. And it's a cool card.
I like it.
Another one that I wanted to lean into here is... I'm just going Staxy today. I don't know why. I want to talk about Overburden.
I'm down.
Just because it's one of those super low to the ground, but holy cow, does it mess up tempo.
Oh my god.
So this is 1 and a blue for an enchantment that says whenever a player puts a non-token creature onto the battlefield, that player returns a card they control to their owner's hand.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
So your opponents basically don't get to cast creatures anymore, or reanimate creatures, or play their commander, or tutor creatures from their library onto the battlefield, because whenever they do that, they're setting themselves behind on the board.
Yeah. It's a really good tempo piece.
Yeah.
Like, no, we're going to slow it down because you're not stopping anybody from doing it.
They can do it. It's a soft lock, but they're really going to feel that burn.
Yeah, but more importantly, you're not going to play. Like, you're not. If you can, bounce everybody's board or bounce one player's board and then play this, well, your recovery speed is now going to be significantly less.
Well, they're probably not even going to play half those creatures. Like, you have to make hard decisions. Is this even necessary to get back out there? You're right, Mike.
Absolutely.
You are in a Staxy mood.
I guess so. Here, take me out of it. You go.
Okay. How about this little cycle of enchant lands? This one was so interesting.
Yeah.
How about this one?
This is where I thought you were going before, but I love these.
This is nuts. Sunken Field. 1 and a blue for an enchantment aura with enchant land. Enchanted land has tap, counter target spell unless its controller pays 1. Mike, now I know that we don't tend to like conditional counter spells in Commander, but when it's repeatable for no mana on a land, I think that starts to change the equation, put some weights in the corner, because think about this. If you catch anyone out, if you counter one spell, you've already paid for it. right?
Yep.
And you don't have to counter any spells at all because now you have a counter spell on board forever. No one is ever allowed to tap out without talking to you first.
I had an Estrid the Mask deck, and I'm so mad that this wasn't in it.
Yeah.
Just because then, all right, I can tap this for the land, and then I can untap, and then I can still have this ready to go. And the other thing that came to my mind looking at this is like, ooh, there are a lot of decks where I make lands into creatures,
mm-hmm.
and then I do a lot of untap shenanigans with those creatures.
Right.
This would be cool. And then I went, oh no.
Yeah, this is very controlling on the board. This is a hell of a rattlesnake. But there's another one in this cycle that also caught my eye. I don't think it's quite as powerful, but I think it has...
Situationally, though.
Right, situationally, this could be way stronger, more impactful.
Sure.
Noxious Field is 1 black, that's 3 mana for an enchantment aura with Enchant Land. Enchanted Land has tap. This land deals 1 damage to each creature and each player.
Belbay? Hello?
Yeah, first of all, yeah, this might go into Belbay right now. Second of all, 1/1s are done, right? You can wipe the entire board of tokens instantly or threaten to, which is even better.
Mm-hmm.
Next, any combat that's happening, people need to be really careful with the math that they're doing because all those favorable matchups they think they're getting are about to turn into trades or losses.
Or doing that before to get rid of some attackers. And then, I love any time that you have, the pyrohemia type of effect where it's, all right, I'm going to do some damage to everything. And to have that on a land.
A repeatable effect on a land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I dig it. I love this. So those are the ones that were enchanting the lands to get some value and to make things a little bit more favorable for us or, doing a favor for one of our opponents politically, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Then we get into some things where, you can get rid of some lands to do some extra effects. Let's talk about Aura Fracture.
Okay, yeah.
This is 2 and a white for an enchantment that says sacrifice a land, destroy target enchantment. Just nice, right? Just the ability to have on board repeatable destroy target enchantment. That's good.
Yeah.
The reason I bring it up is so we know this is the bar that we're talking about. Alex, can you talk to me about Excavation, please?
Yeah, let's talk about Excavation. Excavation is 1 and a blue, 2 mana for an enchantment. Pay 1, sacrifice a land, draw a card. Any player may activate this ability.
Ding, 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 ding.
So let's talk about what's happening here. Here's the picture I'm going to paint for you. It's the end of the game.
Yes, please.
We've all been here before, right? We talk about this all the time. The arch enemy is threatening to win on the board. What do you have that will stop them? Well, you have something. It's not in your hand. It's in your deck somewhere. We have to find it. What's something that I would love to see in this situation is Excavation. Pay 1, tap the land, sacrifice that land, draw a card. And the same goes for everybody at the table for as many lands as they have. Because, Mike, this is it. It's midnight hour. If we don't find something, it's game over. It doesn't matter that you're sacking your lands because the game is about to end. Now, every other player at the table has one last chance to dig down as far as they can go and find that answer. This is so cool.
It really is. And it's not... yes, it sucks to pay 1 and sacrifice a land to draw a card. Any player can do it.
Yeah. It's
a 2-mana enchantment. This is one of those... It can be totally innocuous.
Who's going to remove this?
If you're playing in an Enchantress deck, great.
Yeah.
Why not? I like these kind of effects. And again, this is another one where I went, Damian needs that.
Any lands deck with blue would love to have this card.
It's a really good. It's a sick card.
Yeah,
I like it a lot.
Absolutely.
Why don't you take me somewhere else here?
Okay. Yeah, I got you, Mike. This one is just just delightful. This art alone is something else. It's remarkable. Elephant Resurgence, one to green.
This is what you got like actively like ooh as you're reading it.
I've never seen this one in my life, Mike, and I'm excited to know it. Elephant Resurgence, one to green. That's 2 mana for a sorcery. Each player creates a green elephant creature token. Those creatures have this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of creature cards in its controller's graveyard. Just a silly little everyone makes a token, and it might just happen that my token's bigger than everyone else's because it's in my deck. And can we just talk about this art, Mike? This is like, it's a zombie elephant that's covered in earth. It's floating above the ground. It seems like it's probably still half asleep in the grave. This is just the coolest art.
See, I was sitting here deciding, okay, is this a zombie elephant? Is this an elephant that's like being constructed from like the earth and everything like that, so it makes the skeleton?
Yeah, that could be it too. Yeah.
I don't know, but the point is it's cool, and it's a 2 mana, everybody's going to get an elephant.
Hell yeah, dude.
And it's as big as how much you got in your graveyard. And that's really cool. Plus, giving elephants to people.
Yes.
There's not a lot of cards that we get to do that, and this is another one, and it feels a lot less mean than beast, than generous gift. You know what I mean? I love this.
Absolutely. This is a nice elephant card.
It's a friendly elf. Well, I guess admittedly, if somebody doesn't have any creatures in their graveyard, you're giving them a 0/0 elephant, which just comes in and then dies.
Well, these things happen.
Yeah, they do happen, but they're resurgent. They'll come back. It's okay. Let's talk about. This is one that got you excited because your judge brain. I could hear it. Why don't you talk to me about Celestial Convergence?
Okay. Yeah, Mike, there are very few cards in the game that cause a draw. And frankly, this is just a judge tangent right here. If I can speak honestly, it really bothers me that the technical term for a stalemate in the game of Magic is a draw. Because, Mike, there's another use for the word draw, and it's way more common than this one. I really wish they had called it a stalemate or a deadlock or a lose-lose, whatever they want to call it, right? Not this. Celestial Convergence, 2 double white, 4 mana for an enchantment. Celestial Convergence enters the battlefield with 7 omen counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove an omen counter from Celestial Convergence. If there are no omen counters on Celestial Convergence, the player with the highest life total wins the game. If 2 or more players are tied for the highest life total, the game is a draw. Okay. I think it's this, and I think there's one other spell in the game that actually draws the game, causes a stalemate. And we're not including cards that cause unbreakable loops. I'm saying cards that say the game is a draw on the card. This is so silly.
Well, I mean, Alex, they did come up with a phrase for draw that wasn't draw.
What it is?
It's made you uncomfortable before, but I mean, every pony wins the game.
Oh boy.
Let's go ahead and move on here. This is another one that when we're talking about, hey, you want some power, Calming Verse. Board wipes are great. Board wipes for everybody else can be better. 3 generic and a green for a sorcery that says destroy all enchantments you don't control. Then, if you control an untapped land, destroy all enchantments you control. So this is a tap out, float your mana, whatever you're going to do, destroy all enchantments, except for yours.
Yeah.
Real simple, real easy, great. And man, just another one of those, hey, if you're trying to get some value, there's a lot of enchantment decks. Great. Take them down a notch here.
Yeah, this is very simple to evade that second part where you would destroy all enchantments you control. Very, very simple, right? You just tap out before you cast a spell, and that's it. Yeah.
And again, that's one of those things where there's not a ton of destroy all enchantments except for yours cards. I can't think of a ton of them.
I do
And
have one other one. It's not from this set, but I
sure.
know of one more. We don't have to.
Okay. Yeah, but that's you know what I'm saying? We're
There's not that
talking
many.
about a really small
Yeah,
pool.
yeah.
And enchantments are powerful. Rhystic Study is in this set. Rhystic Study is a powerful card.
Really?
I would pay 4 mana to get rid of a Rhystic Study sometimes because I'm just sick and tired of somebody asking me if I want to pay the 1. The idea that I could get rid of that and a Smothering Tithe and a blah, 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 doesn't matter. Calming Verse is a really cool card, and I like it. I didn't realize it was from the set.
Yeah, me too. We actually have another asymmetric board wipe in this deck, and it might be a little bit more well known. That's Plague Wind for 7 black, 9 mana for a sorcery. Destroy all creatures you don't control. They can't be regenerated.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's that.
Yeah, it's let's talk about the value.
Yeah.
9 mana is a lot. However,
Well, the game's
9
gonna
mana
end.
at 9 mana win the game. That's reasonable.
Yeah.
That's kind of the going rate for win the game. And Plague Wind is one of those. Nope, everything needs to go away. I'm gonna swing in, or just make everything go back to a restart. Also pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Plague Wind. Let's talk about an interesting one. I think I love red cards that are all about no. If you want to hold up mana, if you want to do something that isn't what I want to do, that's fine. It's just going to hurt. Citadel of Pain.
Yeah.
2 in a red for an enchantment that says at the end of each player's turn, or at their end step, Citadel of Pain deals X damage to that player, where X is the number of untapped lands they control. So, all right, you want to hold up that 2 mana for counterspell all the time? That's fine. You're going to take 2 damage from it every time. Oh, I love these effects that are, small, and they hit everybody, but the damage piles up. If this does 10 damage total to your opponents, I'm pretty happy for 3 mana of that. And then also you get players towards the end of the game, if their life totals are small, they almost have to tap mana for nothing just because they don't want to take that extra couple of damage. I like Citadel of Pain a lot.
Yeah, I like it too. I think that there's this is interesting, I think, for a burn deck, but I think that's there's another one that I would probably rather run. Let me get it here. Yeah, here it is. War's Toll. This is basically, I think, a more generically useful, but for burn decks, they probably want the other one. War's Toll is 3 in a red for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent taps a land for mana, tap all lands that player controls. And if a creature an opponent controls attacks, all creatures that opponent controls attack, if able. I think War's Toll kind of supersedes it, but you're right. There are red decks that are just happy to do damage, and this also stops people from holding up too many lands.
No, for sure. And again, it's one of those small things that builds up.
Right. Yeah.
No one's ever going to remove Citadel of Pain.
Yeah.
There's no one is going to remove your 3 mana enchantment that hurts everybody for not tapping their lands at the end of their turn when Rhystic Study exists. And I know I'm going to keep going to that one, but it's in the same stat. So this time it's actually worthwhile to me. Alex, why don't you take us in a different direction here? Where do you want to go?
Yeah, how about this one? This is just mean. Mana Vapors is 1 in a blue, 2 mana for sorcery. Lands target player controls don't untap during their next untap step. Mike, this is this is just so mean.
That's a 2 mana sleep on lands. That's nuts. That is okay, great. I'm going to kill you on my next turn, but I have to make sure you don't get to do anything first.
Right.
It's not a win the game card, but it's a set you up to win the game, or even stop somebody else from winning the game card. And again, you get into some of these cards where it's, okay, this is a sorcery. I get it. But it's like a 20-cent card. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, this can go into a lot of decks. That's something that that's a really powerful effect.
Yeah. That's just dangerous is what that is.
Dangerous is the right. I think that's the right word.
Talk about something else that's really dangerous, Mike. How about Keldon Fire Bombers?
I thought that's where you were going to go.
Oh my god, this is so dangerous. 3 red, that's 5 mana for a creature human soldier. It's a 3/3 with when Keldon Fire Bombers enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices all lands they control except for 3. And Mike, that's an ETB trigger.
That's a, if you can recur it, that's scary. If you can blink it, that's scary.
It's even scary if you don't recur it.
Yeah, no, I love land so much. I just don't. I love land. I don't want this card makes me so sad, but it's so good.
Do you love the land, or are you just saying that because you can tap it for mana?
I love land. So this is one of those cards that we read it. I read it and I got there before you did on the scroll, and then I just kept going past it.
Yeah, you just
A, because I knew you were gonna see it, and B, because I didn't want to be responsible for bringing it here because it makes me so sad. But it's so good.
Yeah,
it's so good. It's not even destroy.
Yeah, each player sacrifices. Oh my gosh!
It gets around just about everything.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about that.
Holy cow! It's a 5 mana. Everybody's on the same playing field here.
Listen, Mike, we're trying to be social here. You don't have to be making everyone sacrifice their lands like this. Come on.
I'm sorry. It was totally rude of me to bring it up in the first place. Let's talk about a couple of you know what? Let's talk about a couple of mean cards, maybe not that mean, and a couple of free spells that you can play. But we're going to get to those right after we take a break. All right, we're back, everybody. And I want to talk about, sometimes I just get bummed out because I cast creatures and then they just end up on my opponent's boards. And I don't even know how. I don't even know why. Like Fickle Ifrit. 3 generic and a red for a 5/2. I mean, that's fair. It's reading the card explains the card. So whenever Fickle Ifrit attacks or blocks, flip a coin at the end of combat. If you lose the flip, an opponent gains control of Fickle Ifrit. I like this just because if you've got the right order of operations, you can absolutely get this into okay, I'm going to attack you. And I'm going to flip a coin. Great. Now the player to my left is going to take this thing, and they're going to attack you with it again. And then they're going to flip a coin. And then this person is going to... just the idea of this one creature doing 15 damage.
That's in the course.
Silly. It's Assault Suit, maybe. I like Fickle Ifrit. I'm glad that you brought this one up.
Yeah, the silliest thing, Mike, is that this is a rare. Like, can you imagine pulling this as a rare for your pack in the year 2000?
That's right.
Like, oh my god, what did I do to deserve this?
Yeah. All of the decks that this 4 mana 5/2 was going into on the one-on-one matchups. But again, it's just, man, it is silly. I do kind of love the idea of putting this into my my Jessica and Arden deck to soup it up and just say, I don't know who's gonna get it. Go.
This is an interesting one. I think we could make this one work. Soul Strings.
Yeah.
For X and black. It's a sorcery. Return 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand unless any player pays X. Sure, you could pump a bunch of mana into this and make sure no one can pay it. You're going to be probably devaluing the spell, just paying way more than you need to, but
that's true.
I have a feeling that we could make some sort of deal, and you might be able to even get this for just black for 1 mana.
I mean, it's possible.
It's possible.
It's unlikely, but it's possible, right? I like this card because that's possible. But even on the other side, right? Would you pay 3 mana to get 2 creature cards back to your hand?
And probably not.
Okay. Would you pay 2? I mean total. Like if a card just said 3 mana, return 2 creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. Maybe, maybe not.
See,
Would
I'm
you
the
pay
kind of
2?
person who doesn't tend to. I don't tend to run that kind of spell. I either reanimate it
That's
or
fair.
it stays in the graveyard forever.
Okay. And that's totally reasonable.
That's just me,
right?
though.
But sometimes I need to get that back.
Yeah.
You know, or even just this is 2 mana for me to get 2 cards back. Maybe that's helpful. Maybe I want to discard them again. Maybe I want to recur. You know, maybe I'm looking for the ET. There's a bunch of reasons why this card could be good.
Yeah, maybe.
And you've got the upside of, I just want to get these things back. I mean, is anybody going to get really mad if you say, hey, I want to get this veteran explorer back?
I want to get this veteran explorer. I want to get the Sakura Tribe Elder back. Like, yeah. What are you going to do? It's turn 2. Nobody has any untapped mana.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
I like this. I like Soul Strings. It's a good pick.
Yeah.
Let's go with something else kind of weird here. I saw this and I started busting up, and then you saw, and I mentioned it. You gave me a little bit of a, well, I mean, we have to talk about that, and I didn't get it, and then I did. It's Sorin the Sorcery, Blessed Wind. So 7 white, so a 9 mana sorcery that says target player's life total becomes 20.
Mike, this card is just laughably bad. Like,
it is, but nothing makes me happier than I'm playing against someone who's going infinite life. Well, hopefully you can do it at instant speed, because on my turn your life total becomes 20. It's just I love that. It's so goofy. I guess it's a heal if need be, but
okay,
let's be real.
It's goofy.
That's never going to happen.
Good. I mean, you're not going to catch me running this in any of my decks.
No. The main reason I wanted to bring it up is just because it's right there with Plague Wind, and it's just okay, cool.
Yeah,
I don't know how.
That's a glimpse into the power between black and white. Black's 9 mana spell is asymmetric board wipe, and white's spell is your life total becomes 20. Wow.
Yeah. And the art is even in kind of like the same kind of like location where there is just these 2 different characters that are just standing there with their arms back. One of them, you know, looking like they're being revitalized a little bit, and another one where it's a wind of plague. It's just I love it. Alex, take me somewhere else off of this 9 mana.
Okay. I mean, as long as we're talking about things that are absurdly overcosted, how about Endbringer's Revel? That's 2 and a black, 3 mana for an enchantment. That's not the overcosted part. Pay 4. Return target creature card from a graveyard to its owner's hand. Any player may activate this ability as a sorcery. So, yeah, this is an interesting one because it's potentially good in a pinch, but it's 4 mana. So this is the kind of thing that hits the board and nobody ever gives it a second thought.
The only reason that you do is if you don't have anything to do with your turn, so you're going to pay 4 mana to get somebody else their own creature back.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, the other alternative here is just, hey, if you're willing to pay 4 mana to get something from your graveyard back to your hand, it better be really important.
Yeah, I hope so.
Which, I guess, you know, I don't know. It's a pretty silly little card, but I did kind of like the look of it. Again, I like that this set, without having multiplayer in mind, really leaned into any player may play this ability, but only at sorcery speed.
There are a lot of interesting decisions. I wish we could just have some idea of like what were they thinking. Rhystic Deluge, 2 and a blue for an enchantment. Pay blue. Tap target creature unless its controller pays 1. This is another one where you're not allowed to tap out before combat because now you aren't allowed to attack or block or activate the ability of that creature.
Everybody has to do that mental math.
Yep.
How much mana do I need to leave untapped? to be able to stop that tap effect. How much mana does Alex have? How much blue does Alex have available right now to tap creatures down? How much do I have to counteract it? Can I do that? Well, I can, but then I can't cast this spell at the same time. All right, fair enough. Like anything that can pardon the callback, overburden the mental math on what needs to be done means that you're doing something that is putting you in an advantageous situation.
It makes people,
that's just how it goes.
People only have a certain amount of active thinking power, right? They need that thinking power to make strategic decisions about what they're going to play, what's happening on the board, who are they dealing with, how are they going to win. There's a million things happening on an EDH board. You are just kneecapping them by making them do all this extra math. Like,
oh yeah,
they're gonna hate it.
No, it's one of those things where even if it just stops somebody from having to attack you, because I'm going to, it's almost kind of like having a Mazavith, because it's hey, this is out here, and I'm going to tap that thing if it comes my way. But if it goes somewhere else, I'll let it go. It kind of rattlesnakes in its own weird, not so subtle way. But it's just nice to be able to tap things down if it needs to absolutely happen. Speaking of tapping things down, maybe you want other people to be able to tap things the turn they come out. Haste is a great thing. Whip Sergeant, 2 generic and a red for a 2/1 human soldier that has the ability red. Target creature gains haste until end of turn. That's not tap, and it's not target creature you control. So for a red, anything can get haste.
Yeah.
That's good to me. I like the ability to, I can't kill him this turn. I need another turn. Well, why? I got a big thing. Okay, great. Or even just the ability to play this and then give certain things haste. I as somebody who often has to deal with the flip a creature from the top of your deck, or give a creature a whole bunch of equipment and then not have my Swiftfoot boots out so I can't give it haste. Like that kind of stuff. One more thing where I can target things and give them haste. I kind of dig it.
Yeah, it's kind of like a discount Kenrith. Except this is something where you're making the individual decision, right? And also this can be played in mono red or red X. It doesn't have to be in a 5-color deck like Kenrith would have to be. Even though I would think Kenrith's, even just his first ability, red, pay 1 mana and all creatures gain haste and trample until end of turn. Obviously that's just way stronger.
Sure.
This
but tell me this doesn't go in an Atali deck if you're just trying to find extra ways. Because Atali is a remove on site kind of thing.
Right.
But people typically have a turn to figure out an answer for it.
Right.
Well, now you don't. Boof, go. I like Whip Sergeant. He's silly.
Yeah, that is silly. Got another Ristic card here. There were a lot of Ristic cards, but really only the Ristic Study got any attention in EDH.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have this one, Ristic Tutor, 2 and a black, 3 mana. For a sorcery, unless any player pays 2, search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, and then shuffle. Mm-hmm. This is it's an interesting one.
It's a fair tutor. It's what I'll call it.
It's like, everyone's tapped out.
Fair
I guess
tutor.
Nobody cares if I tutor.
It's a sorcery speed, 3 mana.
Ask
into your hand. Permission to tutor, please. Which, okay, I don't run a ton of tutors in my decks just because I feel like if I get, I am the obsessive type. So if I put a tutor in a deck, I'm going to start, I know that this is the best card in my deck, so I'm going to go get this card. And if I do that, I'm going to start building more efficiently to do that, and then I get bored.
If you give Mike a tutor, he's going to make a competitive deck.
If you give Mike a tutor, he's going to make a combo. And that's just not me. I don't have a lot of fun doing that. That's a good way.
Ristic tutor?
Rhystic Tutor is on the line. Like Scheming Symmetry, I'll play 10 times out of 10, just because I love that card. Rhystic Tutor, you know what? Here's the thing. It's not good.
No.
But it's good enough. You know what I mean? Because the other thing is, if I play a Rhystic Tutor and somebody stops me, they're stopping me because I'm either way too far ahead or because they're far enough ahead that they don't want me to stop them.
Right.
Like I said, it's not a good card, but it's interesting. And I kind of like that effect on a card where we're going to see, you know? What about you? Is this a card that you would play?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just real quick and straight to the point. No.
No. There are interesting and political tutors, right? You mentioned Scheming Symmetry. Love it. There's another that I really love in Teamer. There it is, Guided Passage. Oh, one of my favorites. That's from Apocalypse. It's blue, red, green, 3 mana. For sorcery, reveal the cards in your library. An opponent chooses from among them a creature card, a land card, and a non-creature, non-land card. Mm-hmm. Put the chosen cards into your hand, then shuffle your library. So there are interesting tutors in the game that I would call fair. This is probably one of them, but I still wouldn't play it. I don't like the value on it.
That's fair, and I get that. Instant speed, maybe we're talking. Lower mana cost, maybe we're talking.
Maybe.
But like I said, it's good enough. But I'm also the person that's probably not going to run any tutors anyway. So,
fair enough.
Let's talk about some better value cards like free. Abolish. 1 white for an instant. You may discard a Plains card rather than pay Abolish's mana cost. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. So this is typically going to be a free disenchant. I mean, that's why you're playing it. But at worst case, a 3 mana disenchant. Okay, I can deal with that.
Yeah, that's not nothing.
No, not at all.
If you're playing in white, especially mono white,
especially,
you're going to have a Plains in your hand pretty much all the time.
Yeah,
and I mean, not every deck wants to run a disenchant, but
no,
you might want to run a 0 mana disenchant and discard a Plains at instant speed.
Yeah. Not every deck wants to run a disenchant, but if you're a deck that wants to run a disenchant, you might want to run Abolish, which, great, I got no problem with that.
Well, we got another in that set, don't we, Mike? There was Foil, there was Abolish, and here's Snag. 3 and a green for an instant. You may discard a forest card rather than pay the spell's mana cost. Prevents all combat damage that would be dealt by unblocked creatures this turn. So we've talked about fogs. Fogs have problems. They tend to be limited in scope. However, they are, I think, a lot more powerful than people give them credit for, especially with upside. And this one has the upside of being 0 mana.
Yep. And just as importantly here, it's preventing all combat damage that would be dealt by unblocked creatures this turn.
Yeah.
So if you had good blocks on a couple of creatures, if you could take out some of the attackers, that's still happening.
That's a good point. You can set up favorable blocks and just let the bad ones go through.
Yeah, and you're setting yourself up for a really good crackback.
That is a good crackback.
I like Snag a lot.
That's a better upside than I initially considered. That's a good point.
And again, it's a circumstantial upside, but it's still a good one.
Yeah, you do not want to pay 4 for this, though. You really want to pay 0.
No. Yeah, at that point, it needs to be a 4 mana fog win the game, and even then, discarding a forest is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think we're at our last one here.
Oh yeah.
And I think we saved the weirdest and possibly meanest wind of them all. Denying wind. 7 blue for a sorcery.
Oh God.
Search target player's library for up to 7 cards and remove them from the game. Then they shuffle that library. It's a 9 mana. What are your 7 best cards in your library? Cool, they're gone.
Yeah, there are a couple cards like this, like Gestures,
it's so silly.
Tap. There's that black one where you pay a ton of mana and exile 15 cards. Yeah, so if you're in a play group, a consistent play group,
Mhm.
and you know how your friends' decks function. Or even if your
Yep.
friends have decks that are just intuitively understandable to function, these are the cards they need to win the game.
Sure.
Most decks aren't running more than 7 win cons. If you take away,
Right.
say, maybe they're running 3 win cons and the rest, they're
Mhm.
big enablers, maybe they're big tutors, maybe they're big spells. I mean, it's usually pretty easy to tell what the best spell in someone's deck is, especially since you can search their library and make the decisions as you're searching.
Yeah. And you searching also means like you're searching. You can talk to the table about it. Heck, there's a lot of commanders that are pretty popular and pretty prevalent. You can find some of those combos just by knowing, like,
Right.
oh, hey, it's a Niv Mizzet deck. Great. I need to get rid of these couple of spells that combo off and go infinite.
Right.
Got it. Stuff like that. And even if you're not sure what the best card in somebody's deck is, do you think you could figure out what 4 or 5 of the best 7 are if you look through the deck? Like, this is, and don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here like, oh, this is a great card. It's 9 mana, but I think this is one of those, if you could pull it off in a game, it's gotta feel good. It's gotta feel extremely bad if it's happening.
It's funny if you get somebody good enough, right? Like, as I was just saying, if you hit all of somebody's win cons, and then you also knock out whatever alternate win con they had, and they just don't have an answer. Not all decks can close it out without their win cons. Some decks can eke out through combat at a disadvantage. Yep. Some decks can mill out very slowly if that's not their main win con. But Mike, when you take out their entire list of win cons, other than what's on their hand and on the field, it's possible that their deck just stalls and they can't do anything for the rest of the game.
And that's pretty terrible.
You just took the engine out of their car.
Now kind of where I'm thinking about, because it's up to, I think I want to denying win a combo deck, and I just want to take out all of their tutor pieces.
Take out all the tutors.
Take out all the tutors. No, you can get these cards. That's totally fine, but you're going to draw them fair and square.
Just evil. Oh my gosh. You're spending 9 mana in blue. Blue is the color where if you have 9 mana to spend,
expropriate exists.
Oh, you can go expropriate it. You're just going on a shopping spree. This spell is very, very silly. It's part of the same 9 mana cycle, and I think it's a lot better than the white one, but I don't think it's as good as the black one.
I think at some point we're gonna have to do like because you and I both care about value a lot. A, because we're EDH players, and B, because we're group hug players. So we like resources, we like things being possible, we like battle cruiser. I think we should do just like each of us are going to bring the worst mana value things to the table we possibly can.
Oh god!
It's just like, hey, let's have a conversation about these cards that are really, really expensive, that are really, really terrible. Because I think that would be a fun process. A fun process, just like this has been. This has been fun, and it is kind of revealed the premise of what we were talking about. These are cards that, other than the mainstays, there's not a ton of these other. We talked about 32 cards, and you'd say what, like 5, maybe 6 of them are in more than 1,000 decks. And the rest of them are.
Yeah.
The rest of them are a lot more limited, and at the same time, it's just like, well, yeah, but there's absolutely some value in here. And the set came out, and there was no reason for this set to exist at the time.
Yes,
there wasn't multiplayer.
Came out, 21 years ago, and at the time, none of the cards, even the cards we talked about that don't make sense today. We have cards that we talked about that do make sense today. None of these cards
made a lot less
sense back in the year 2000. Like, this has just been a delightful blast from the past, right? I was not playing Magic at this time. You said you had just stopped playing Magic at this time.
Yeah, I was around there.
I have pity on the people who were playing during this time. They can't even fathom what the future would hold for these terrible, terrible standard cards becoming great and terribly silly EDH cards. And Mike, if they wanted to buy any of these silly EDH cards from Prophecy, where would they go?
Man, we're getting so good at this. 49 episodes in, and your transitions.
Oh
I
my
wasn't
God,
even
we're
ready
about to
for
hit
it. It was
episode
so good.
50.
We are. We're going to talk about that later.
Okay.
We'll talk about it later. Okay. So thanks for listening, everyone. If you want to buy any of the cards we talked about, deck boxes, sleeves, etc., you can support us by going to bit.ly/EDH_social. That'll take you to our affiliate link with TCG Player, where you can buy everything we talked about, a whole bunch of other stuff that we haven't, and you're going to be helping out us in the process. So that's one of those things where you're going to buy these cards anyway. If you can help us out, we appreciate it. At the same time, if you have any questions about any of these crazy cards, or you have cards from old sets that the thought process was, what were they thinking? And then decades later, oh, that's neat now. Where would they go to ask you questions about it, Alex? How can they reach you?
Yeah, sure, Mike. If anybody has any comments about cards that they were printed in standard and you pulled it out of a pack and you just wanted to die, and then you pull it out of a dusty binder 21 years later and you're like, this is perfect for my group hug deck, I want to hear about it. You can reach me on Twitter at Lappermedic. That's LAPPERMEDIC. We can also talk in private. I'm reachable at alex@edhrec.com. Yeah, and hop on our Discord, right? We want to talk to you about all of the silly Battlecruiser cards, good value, bad value. What were the EDH cards before EDH was a thing? Mike, this has just been so much fun. I think that we'll have to plumb the depths of the old sets in the future and see what political cards are in our past.
Yeah, we said it as a joke at one point, and then we actually went through the exercise.
It was fun
because we had a little bit of a prompt. This was fun, and holy cow, did this reveal some stuff.
I learned about a couple of new cards.
Got like 6 ooh can I see that's for actual cards I'm going to put into a couple
Almost
of decks.
Everything we mentioned today is 0% of decks.
Yeah, so
except for Study.
Except for Ristic Study and Spore Frog. But there's a couple. Yeah. Point is, there's a lot of value here. Yeah. Everyone, we're going to go ahead and put our Discord link in the show notes. In 2 weeks, we're going to be doing our year-end episode. It's also going to be episode 50.
Episode 50.
We're going to... Yeah, we got there. We did it. In all of that, we're going to talk a lot more then about thanking everybody. And at the same time, we might as well take the opportunity now, because it's been awesome to go on this journey with everybody. Alex, it's been awesome working with you and figuring out, okay, what are we going to talk about now? What are we going to do now? And the roller coaster that is, a project, like taking this game that we love and this specific way that we love to play it and try and have fun with everybody at the table, and also make it fun for us to talk about that. And it's been really cool. And we've made some friends. We've had some great people on. We've gotten a lot of people in the Discord and talking about, and a lot of stuff that I wouldn't have ever foreseen doing. And I mean, it's just been over a year and we're already there, man. It's pretty fantastic. So I appreciate you being here with me.
Absolutely, Mike. It's been so fun talking about social cards with you. Group hug, group slug, stacks, politics.
We were doing so good. Brought up stacks, man. All right.
Mike, you were in a Staxy mood today. We talked about some real Staxy cards and you were on board too.
For like a minute, and then I sobered up because we started talking about the elephants.
Stacks and hard locks in particular since we started this show. I think he has.
I think it's time for us to call it there. I don't want to discuss this any further. Don't make me self-evaluate. Anyway, everyone, thank you very much for listening. We'll talk to you soon.